The other major story today, aside from the death of Lyndon Johnson, the tragic death, and the hopes for peace in Vietnam, is the decision of the United States Supreme Court. It handed down a historic decision about abortion. The court said in a 7-2 decision that in the first 3 months of pregnancy, only the woman and her physician may decide whether she may have an abortion. In the second 3 months, all the state may do is regulate abortion procedures. And only in the final 3 months of pregnancy can the state forbid abortion. The court ruled in cases from Texas and Georgia, but all 50 states are effective, whatever their laws.
NBC Nightly News reporting 51 years ago today on the Supreme Court issuing its Roe versus Wade ruling. And today, a year and a half after that landmark decision was overturned, President Biden will meet with key members of his cabinet to discuss abortion rights and reproductive freedom. NBC News has learned the Departments of Treasury, Labor, Health and Human Services will issue new guidance today to clarify standards and support expanded coverage of FDA-approved contraceptives at no cost under the Affordable Care Act for millions of women nationwide. And joining us now, attorneys Catherine Colbert and Julie F. Kay. They are co-authors of the new book entitled Controlling Women, What We Must Do Now to Save Reproductive Freedom. Also with us for this discussion is co-founder and CEO of All In Together, Lauren Leader, who has written about this on Know Your Value. So let's start with the book because, Catherine Colbert, I'll start with you. What can be done at this point moving forward that in certain states aren't already trying, and what can be done from the highest level in the land, the White House?
Well, Mika, thank you so much for having me. And I think the most important thing to remember here is that there is no one strategy that will work. There has to be a multiple-pronged attempt to reverse what's going on, both at the state level and eventually at the federal level, because there are now almost a third of the states of this country that ban abortion, that make it very, very difficult for women to obtain it in those states. And women's health is drastically undermined as a result. To reverse that, we need to look at state statutes, state constitutions, federal statutes, a new federal constitution. That all sounds very daunting, but we need to work at this one step at a time. And I think the important part here is every person who cares about abortion rights needs to take a stand and do something with your energy to make this politically unfeasible going forward.
100%. And Julie F. Kay, the same question for you.
Well, I think right now we're in a public health crisis as well as a human rights crisis. And so we need to get engaged politically, but we also really need to think about those women who are on the ground who are not getting access to services in vast pieces of this country. A lot of advances have been made in medicine, and particularly telemedicine abortion, where you do a virtual visit with your doctor and get safe, easy medication, abortion pills through the mail is really the wave of the future. So women are voting at the voting booths, and they're also voting with their mice and with their choices online of how they're going to access care in a safe and affordable and a way that's their choice.
And Lauren Leader, on this anniversary of Roe v. Wade, you're writing for Know Your Value about what women have both lost and gained in these past 51 years. Tell us about it.
Well, look, I mean, I certainly don't want to imply that there's any silver lining to the end of Roe, because there's not. It was a catastrophic decision for tens of millions of Americans. However, I do think that for many years, the sort of political galvanization around abortion was all around the anti-abortion movement, the pro-life movement, that for 51 years was one of the most important animating forces in American politics, really from Ronald Reagan to the present day. And they were enormously successful. And I think what we really have now seen is that for the first time, certainly in my lifetime, a majority of women and even men as well have woken up to this reality that rights are not guaranteed. They can be reversed. And without our active political participation, participation. Really, anything is possible. So I think the wake-up call for Americans has been very real. We saw it at the ballot box in places like Ohio and Kentucky, and in every place where abortion's been on the ballot since Dobbs. And that is a really incredibly important sort of political change in this country. The advantage now, the political advantage, is on the pro-abortion, not pro-abortion, but obviously pro-abortion rights movement. And that is a huge shift. It's a political earthquake.
Catherine, can you give us a kind of update in the, what is it now, 18 months plus since the Dobbs ruling on what's happened to abortion in this country and the expansion of telemedicine and trying to kind of step into the breach and how important that has been?
Well, I think the most important thing is that in states where abortion is banned, women have to struggle to find services. And that affects both women who are trying to terminate an unintended pregnancy and women who are pregnant and facing a variety of health difficulties within their pregnancy. We saw in the news repeatedly stories of pregnant women who are late in pregnancy, find fetal anomalies, and are suffering severe consequences because doctors won't perform procedures in banned states.
Right.
So it has really caused significant, as Julie just mentioned, a public health crisis for pregnant women. In addition, though, what we've seen is a whole range of women having to struggle every single day to find services, either by telephone, by finding friends who can help them. And in many states, like in Texas, well, not many states, but certainly in Texas, they can be criminally prosecuted for trying to find services from their friends. And there have been a number of cases in Texas in which people helping women have been threatened with litigation. So we've seen both the public health crisis, the criminalization, and most importantly, as Lauren said, a reawakening among women that this is not allowable, that they need to become politically active, that they need to say this is no longer okay, and begin to show that in the ballot box.
So, Julie, as you sat down here, we talked about what an outsized role abortion played in the 2022 election. It did last year in 2023. We have every reason to believe it will again this year. Even as we're talking about other things right now, there's this belief, certainly among Democrats, they think that in the ballot box, abortion is going to really matter. You mentioned here that we certainly live in a society right now, very short attention spans, but you think this issue is going to stay. It's going to be something at the forefront of people's minds for years to come unless something were to change. Tell us why you think that.
Well, abortion is part of the regular health care and experience for so many, many women. And we also have a maternity mortality rate in the United States that is way higher than it should be and is appalling. And I think that when you look at something that has become a political football but is really a health care issue for so many people and so many women and the people who love them, it doesn't go away. It's not something that is kind of going to be a flash in the pan. And the more that we're aware and talking about abortion rights, and the more, as we've seen post-Dobbs, all of a sudden people are really recognizing what a risk this court has posed to women's health and lives. It doesn't go away. It doesn't go away at the ballot box. We've seen successful elections at the state and federal level where abortion was either specifically on the ballot or whether it was a candidate who was talking about supporting those rights. And that's going to continue. We've seen people continue to come out and march in the United States and globally to support these rights. And we've seen women and helping people to access abortion through telemedicine, through mailing of abortion pills into states that have taken away these rights, and through helping women travel when they need to or want to. The outrage of some of the extreme cases in Texas and other places where there have been real risks to women's health and life and fertility has been huge. So that's with us.
Lauren Leader, All In Together trains women across America on the tools of political power. I just wanted to get your thoughts on this. I feel like women advocates, politicians need to reframe what this is about, especially after what we've been witnessing as a country over the past 2 years. Of course, this is about reproductive freedom, but I think it's about a lot more. It's about our health. It's about not dying when you have a non-viable pregnancy. It's about not being tortured mentally and physically, when you have a need for a DNC or a non-viable pregnancy. And we've seen this play out, so it's not like pie in the sky, maybe this would happen. This is now happening to women. They're bleeding out. They're becoming sterilized. They're becoming traumatized. They're physically tortured because of the lack of health care, abortion health care that they need. It's about our right to life. It's about the right to life of your sister, a new mother, somebody who wants to have babies but has a non-viable pregnancy that has gone terribly wrong. Her right to life and her right to not have to watch that baby gasp for air and die in her arms hours after it was born, and then find out she's sterilized and then get mentally tortured by that, perhaps need a lot of mental health care. And our right to a normal, healthy life. This is about more than reproductive freedom. You see, when you say reproductive freedom, stupid Republicans, stupid, short-sighted, and hypocritical Republicans, many of whom probably have people in their lives who have had abortions and needed them, and they've been able to pay for them. Those people, men and women at this point, will take reproductive freedom and say, oh, look at those women, those lazy women who got pregnant, and now they want to murder a baby. That's what they use those words. That's how they frame those words. And we have real life experiences that show that we're fighting for our right to life at this point, for our right to abortion health care, to a healthy life. Is this a strategy or something that you think could work? And do you think reproductive freedom is not enough at this point?
I mean, I think it is a fundamental question of whether or not the Constitution grants women the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is an absolute fundamental question of our place in American society. And, you know, when Roe was decided on this question of privacy, I think that's a really significant part of it, which is why are women no longer able to have the same kind of privacy, the same kind of choices, the same kind of access to decide their own futures and the futures of their families as men do. And I think that message is really one that is deeply personal for millions of American women, whether or not they consider themselves pro-life. And I think that's what the impact of these cases that we've been talking about on the show now, Mika, for 18 months, right? These horrible cases of women who are suffering needlessly because politicians decided to interfere in their private decisions. You're going to really hear more of this on the life and liberty piece, I think, especially from the vice president, who's going to be out today speaking about that, from the president during the campaign. And I think Americans really need to understand that that is fundamentally what is at stake here. And when we talk about additional rights that may be rolled back, that we see the potential for this court, people need to take that really seriously. The court has told us what they intend to do, and it is not to move in a direction of more freedom and liberty for American women or for Americans in general. That's dangerous. I think Americans now understand that. And to your question about the politics, Mika, like, I talk to Democrats all over the country. I think one of the most effective ads we saw in this last cycle was Andy Bashir's ad in Kentucky, where all he did was put a 12-year-old girl on camera to talk about her experience of having been raped and what she faced and having to make agonizing choices. I think we're going to see more of that. We should let women speak. Let women speak about what's happening to their lives, about the liberty that they've been deprived of. That's what's at stake.
Yep. Co-founder and CEO of All In Together, Lauren Leader, thank you so much. Her new piece is online now at knowyourvalue.com. Attorneys Catherine Colbert and Julie F.K., thank you both as well. Their book is entitled Controlling Women: What We Must Now Do to Save Reproductive Freedom. And coming up,